Journey into Comics.
Poor entertainment, poor news.
Foodies watching movies.
Adulting 80s.
Podcast read The Voice of Survival.
Kids for Sale. Gallif Radio.
Brews with dudes.
Journey into Wrestling. Journey into Comics Network. JourneyIntoComics.com.
The following
is a Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into
Is a
Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics
Network.
production.
Hey, this is Veronica from Foodies Watching Movies, and you're listening to the Journey into Comics Network Best of the Week show. Highlights from all the episodes on the network this week. Enjoy.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics.
Lucasfilm president and Star Wars producer Kathleen Kennedy getting a contract extension. Hollywood Reporter recently revealing Kennedy's new deal will put her in Lucasfilms until at least 2021. And does it say a value? Looks like a mini bike of our existence. That was fucking loud. Let's see. Let's go ahead and read this article here. It says, after turning out 3 hugely successful Star Wars movies since Disney's purchase of the franchise years ago, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy is receiving a contract extension to continue shepherding the galaxy far, far away. Hollywood Reporter recently revealed Kathleen Kennedy's new deal, which puts her in control of Lucasfilms until at least 2021. After purchasing Lucasfilms from George Lucas for $4 billion in 2012, Kennedy has overseen 4 films that have went on to gross over $4.5 billion at the box office in less than 4 years, meaning they made their investment back and are now making money on the Star Wars franchise no matter what they do. Of course, this could be a shock for some who thought Kennedy might be outed after the poor performance of Solo, that film only grossing $392 million worldwide. And although that is good by some standards of other blockbusters, it's well short of the Disney expectation for the Star Wars franchise. Although The Last Jedi did receive mixed reception from fans, it did generate over $1 billion at the box office and was the top-selling home video release of 2018 before being supplanted by Black Panther a few weeks ago. Regardless, the poor reception to Solo has caused Disney execs to rethink their initial plan to release movies every year, which means we're not going to get official news on any of these other things. But it seems like Kathleen Kennedy is in the driver's seat, in control. I know some people don't agree with it. And honestly, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I've liked every movie that they've done in Star Wars since Star Wars is back. I like that we have more Star Wars. And if that means Kathleen Kennedy's around for another 50 years as the head of Lucasfilms, let's fucking do it. You know, maybe some people disagree. Maybe some people think that's bad. Maybe some people think they're trying to make it about equality for everyone. And it's like, yeah, it should be about equality for everyone, you fuck stains. Everyone should have an equal slice of the pie, even if it's not equal slice or equal cut. If listen, like, people keep getting shit on all over the world. People I love have been shit on by other people who are shitty people, right? Just saying terrible, gross comments or awful things or what have you. And it's like, man, why? You know, why? It's like fucking idiots. Everybody should be cool with everybody else. Like, if my shit isn't interrupting your shit, don't fucking worry about what I'm doing. If your shit's not fucking interfering with my shit, I don't give a shit. You know why Tyler and I get along so well? While we don't always see 100% eye to eye every day of the week, he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, and he's not pissed off at me because of that, and I'm not pissed off at him because of that. Do you know why Dick and I get along? Same thing. Do you know why anybody I'm friends with gets along with me that way? It's because we aren't assholes to each other. We don't try to start arguments. We aren't shitty with each other. If we disagree on something, sure, we can disagree on a view. But what you think doesn't break me. It doesn't make me less of a man because my opinion's different. So what? And I get it. Sometimes you want to, like, listen, there's a certain side of these people that just are so loud that you need to shut them up by yelling louder. I get that. I do. I totally understand that. But fuck them also. You know, just fucking don't worry about their stupid. Ultimately, you got to learn how to not worry about the stupid, I guess. Let's move into out of some Star Wars news, into some Marvel news, as we've got some interesting stuff going on here. There is a pretty interesting, and I say it's only interesting, theory that I read on Reddit yesterday regarding what Jake Gyllenhaal is, considering we're, a few weeks into production now. I'm actually closer to a month, I think, of production on the Spider-Man Far From Home film. We've not officially seen what Jake Gyllenhaal is doing, what role he's playing, what part he has in this, if he is even in the movie. Of course, it has been confirmed he's in the movie. So this is an outlandish theory regarding Spider-Man Far From Home. I am becoming more and more convinced that Jake Gyllenhaal isn't playing Quentin Beck, Mysterio, for those of you who don't know, in Far From Home. I think he's playing Norman Osborn. I'm not suggesting that Mysterio isn't the main villain of the movie. I'm sure that he is. But I think that he's going to be played by someone else, either J.B. Smoove or Newman Akar, who are both cast in mysteriously vague roles. Akar's character is called Dimitri, so he might be Chameleon, or it's a misdirect. I think Smoove is more likely, though. Either way, if the students are traveling throughout Europe, and if Mysterio is being villainous throughout the trip, it makes sense that Mysterio is traveling with them somehow. We got a recent behind-the-scene photo of Smoove with the students, which proves nothing, I am aware, but we haven't seen a single hint of Gyllenhaal. I know it's unlikely, but the MCU has been known to intentionally mislead us during the production process and in trailers. I think Osborn is going to be the sleeper villain for this movie. I think they're setting up a more central role for him in the third. Perhaps Norman pays for the trip to Europe for the young students, and his son Harry, Remy High, has just started at their school and he wants him to socialize. They meet Norman once or twice throughout the movie, where we see the difficult relationship he has with his son, and he takes an interest in young Peter Parker. Norman is moving his business to New York City, and the audience learns at the end of the movie that Norman has been behind the scenes pulling strings, like the mysterious buyer in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Perhaps he helps get Mac Gargan, Scorpion, and Adrian Toomes, Vulture, out of prison. He is setting himself up to hold a lot of power, leading into a third movie with Norman as the main villain. It's a pretty interesting theory here by Danish Royalty on your Reddit. I like the theory. I like the possibility that Jake Gyllenhaal could be Norman Osborn, because that is insane casting of the best variety. Norman Osborn is a psychopath. We've only seen him, what was that? Chris, I can't think of his last name, played him in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then you see him dead but his head, and then there's a possibility he was going to come back, but they never finished that franchise. You had Willem Dafoe, obviously a great Green Goblin in that first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. I think Jake Gyllenhaal as Norman is a fantastic casting choice. I also think he's fantastic as Quentin Beck Mysterio, but I guess we just still have to wait and see. Now, interestingly enough, there was, and I know I want to make sure to talk about it, so I don't forget here. Set pics have leaked recently, and I'm not going to talk about the pigeon set leaks. Those aren't that interesting. I am going to talk about what we see in a stealth suit. Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Bringing the black stealth suit. Now, that is not the black symbiote suit, mind you. This is more closer to your Spider-Man Noir, even though it's not Spider-Man Noir suit. But the stealth suit, the black Spider-Man stealth suit, appearing in the movie, it's going to be awesome. I think it makes a lot of sense. Spidey is, if Parker is Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man ends up in the UK, and people identify him clearly, that's the American Spider-Man. All his classmates are going to be like, weird. We went to that field trip in Washington, and Spider-Man was there, and that's, okay, look, that's, okay, sure, I get behind that. And then we're in London, and Spider-Man shows up out of nowhere, like, why the fuck is he following us? And is it weird that every time Spider-Man's fighting, Peter is gone? I don't understand. Someone please explain it to me, because I don't understand. That's some of his classmates, you know. And obviously, this is a smart play because now he's in the UK in the black suit. It's not going to be as obvious when he's stopping bad guys. So it just creates a little bit more of an interesting angle, I think. To speak on interesting angles, somebody who I absolutely fucking adore, Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, recently was on a Schmodcast with Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier. Mosier? During the show, Kirkman discusses how Infinity War just cuts out some of the things moviegoers have come to expect from feature films. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. So this is the full. I'm just going to read some quotes here between Smith and Robert Kirkman. Robert Kirkman starts saying, I love that Infinity War was not even a movie. They were just like, here's a series of events that are important to you because you know these characters. It's going to go from A to B to C to D because it's not a 3-act structure. It's like, whatever, man. You're paying for an experience. There's no recap. There's no explanation as to who anyone is. You sit down in the movie and they're just like, guess what? You've earned this. We're at like movie 21 now and here we fucking go. And you're like, oh my God, this is so great. So Smith compares this to something, saying, they treated it like a giant-sized annual, like our audience knows exactly where we are. Like, we don't have to explain to your mom anymore who Tony Stark is. We're going to start this movie after probably a scene that would have explained a lot of shit. Like with the Asgardians fucking dead, and then there's Thanos himself. They have had that much faith in the audience that they're like, nah, they're following very closely. While Kirkman had come to appreciate Infinity War, it didn't always start out that way. At the end of the movie, he's like, I got my arms crossed and I'm going, oh yeah, Black Panther's dead. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, really? You're in production for a second Spider-Man movie right now and I'm supposed to be upset that Tom Holland is dying in this really emotional way? And then the movie's just over and it's like, oh, fuck you, I'm not buying this. They're all coming back in the next movie. It's like I've read the comics. I know that they disappear and come back. Like, fuck, whatever. Bah! I can't believe he ended it this way. However, Kirkman saw the movie one more time with his daughter, and that changes his mind on what he thought about the movie. He ultimately says, but then I see every Marvel movie 2 or 3 times in theaters because I have free time, and my daughter didn't go with me to the first time because she had something going on, so I bring my 9-year-old daughter to a second time, and she's sitting next to me. And when those people start to disappear, I look over at her, and she's not crying, but it looks like she could cry. Her mouth is agape, her eyes are open. She has a little tiny 9-year-old hands like clutching her heart, and she looks at that screen going, like taking in these breaths. And the emotion I saw in her, I almost wept in the theater. I was like, oh my God, this is like a movie. Seeing how it affected her, I was like, just try not to be so goddamn cynical, Robert. Like, let people enjoy a thing, you know? And that's something I think every comic book fan on the internet should fucking realize. Like, quit being smarter than everyone else. Quit being mean to people. Like, calm down. Let people enjoy a thing sometimes. Word, Robert Kirkman. Love to your mama, because I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And, man, God, Infinity War is so good. Another delicious drink break brought to you by Poor News every other Tuesday on the Journey into Comics Network.
We interrupt the Journey into Comics Network feed for this late-breaking edition of Poor News, featuring Andrew Poor.
There's a revolutionary treatment out there right now that uses HIV to reprogram cells into fighting cancer. Now, that headline, I know, just drawed me right in. I was like, what in the world is this about? So this treatment uses a disabled version of the virus that causes AIDS to reprogram the genes of a person's immune system and retrain it to kill cancer cells. So the article goes on to say, Emma Whitehead, now age 7, was 5 years old when she was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Last spring, she was near death, having twice relapsed from chemotherapy. But this year, she's been in remission for 7 months, has started the 2nd grade, and has regained her childhood according to her parents. She will do so with a revolutionary new treatment that appears to have allowed her own immune system to fight cancer. The treatment uses a disabled version of the virus that causes AIDS to reprogram the genes of a person's immune system or retrain it to kill cancer cells. Researchers remove millions of the patient's T cells, a type of white blood cell, and insert a new gene that would allow the T cell to kill cancerous ones. Disabled HIV is used for the treatment because the virus is good at transmitting genetic material into T cells. Then the engineered T cells are pumped back into the body where they are intended to attack B cells, which turn malignant during leukemia. The re-engineered cells can stay in the body for years, though not the same level as when fighting the disease. Emma is just one of dozens of patients and only a few children that have had this treatment. It is imperfect. The treatment itself nearly killed the 2nd grader. It also attacks healthy B cells, so Emma needed to take immune globulins regularly in order to stave off infection. It's also extremely expensive, costing currently $20,000 without a profit margin. Scientists remain uncertain about why it works and why it does not in the same cases. Still, researchers are excited about the findings and hope to perfect it. Dr. Carl June, who leads the research team at the University of Pennsylvania, ultimately hopes the technique will eliminate the need for bone marrow transplants, which is now the last resort for people with Emma's kind of cancer. The results have been mixed. 3 adults with chronic leukemia have since gone into remission with no further signs of the disease. 1 adult has been treated too soon for researchers to be sure about his progress. 4 adults were moved but did not fully go into remission. 1 child relapsed after the treatment, and 2 adults, the procedure did not cause any progress whatsoever. Still, even though those not involved with the treatment say that it's great promise because it has worked in hopeless cases, Novartis, a major pharmaceutical company, is committed to $20 million for research center that would be used to bring the treatment to market. The treatment was first developed at the University of Pennsylvania, and while Emma received it at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, similar techniques are being used at the National Cancer Institute and the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. So it's interesting how one thing that used to be a life sentence for certain people is now being used to stop a different life sentence for some people. So definitely showing the innovation that science can bring, and maybe that not all pharmaceutical companies are bad, at least when they're developing their research, and as long as they don't put a 50 or 100 or 500% profit margin on this kind of procedure, then hopefully this will save a lot of lives in the long term. And moving from that to something that just kind of pissed me off. So this is from Fox News. This is Border Patrol agent admits to accidentally starting a 45,000 acre wildfire after gender reveal goes wrong. So a Border Patrol agent in Arizona has pleaded guilty to accidentally starting a massive wildfire last year while off duty at his wife's gender reveal party. Dennis Dickey, 37, of Tucson, admitted Friday to igniting the sawmill fire, which burned more than 45,000 acres and caused $8 million worth of damage in April of 2017. As part of the gender reveal, Dickey shot a rifle at a target containing tannerite, a highly explosive substance, which was meant to explode with colored powder upon impact. It was a complete accident, Dickey told Judge Friday, according to the New York Post. I felt absolutely horrible about it. It was probably one of the worst days of my life. Unusually high winds of around 40 miles per hour and lower than average rainfall contributed to the fire's growth, which took about a week to contain. Dickey, who immediately called the fire department and admitted to starting the fire, was charged with a misdemeanor for violating U.S. Forest Service regulations. He has been sentenced to 5 years probation and will require to pay $8,188,069 in restitution. He will also be making a public service announcement with the U.S. Forest Service concerning the cause of the fire. Yeah, for one, I really hate the idea of a gender reveal. Like, I don't know why this became a new fad where it's like, oh, I need to have a piñata full of blue or pink confetti, or I need to make an explosion or light off fireworks. I get it. You want to make this a big ordeal to reveal the gender of your baby. I get it. But why does it need to be this big spectacle? Why can't it be as simple as, oh, this is a cake with white icing that when we cut into it's going to reveal a blue or pink cake? Why can't it be as simple as that? Or something small, something that just doesn't involve burning 45,000 acres of forest in Arizona. Like, just use your head. Like, no one should involve, like, oh, it's a reveal of my baby. I'm going to shoot this gun at a giant ball of ignitable or combustible material to reveal the gender of my baby. No, just stop with this obnoxiousness. Like, this wasn't something that our parents did for us. This wasn't something that other people did. It's just bonkers. Like, if any of my friends out there are pregnant, anyone that's listening to the show are pregnant, just do something silver gender reveal. People are going to be excited either way. You don't need to make it a bigger deal. You don't need to have it in skywriting from an airplane. It's not like you're doing it's like those big promposal stuff or the really over-the-top wedding proposals. Like, keep it simple and intimate. It's what it was meant to be. It used to be that the gender reveal usually involved you, your spouse, and the doctor that was telling you what the gender was. It didn't need to be this big to-do. And yeah, that's just annoying. Like, this is where this kind of stupid shenanigans goes wrong. And it just annoys me that they're probably like, oh, this will be great. I'll shoot a gun, it'll explode in colors, and it'll look awesome, and then we get to go party and whatnot after. It's like, let's just set off napalm, and then I'll have green and blue and pink and all these sparkles, and then it'll be a big old... Like, no, just do something simple. It's just a baby reveal. It doesn't need to be this big pomp and circumstance event. All right, well, that's enough of that. Moving on to... Well, I'm going to save this article. I'm going to push this back to the end. I'm going to kind of save all this for... so it's kind of related to what I want to talk about at the end. And this is involving someone else who kind of has been annoying me lately. And that is Michael Avenatti. The name you probably heard a lot of lately and then didn't hear anything about him even a year ago. He came into at least my public knowledge of his existence as Stormy Daniels' attorney. Stormy Daniels was the stripper. I think she was just a stripper or a prostitute that was linked to Donald Trump, and there's that whole thing about the investigation, and then he has not left the public eye since this happened. He has been fighting tooth and nail, representing all this stuff, and posting on social media and all this, and just trying there, and then there's been, like, talks of him wanting to run for president in 2020. Like, I don't know who this guy thinks he is, but that is not how you become president. It may have worked once, but just stop. So, Democratic lawyer, this is the article from Slate. So, Democratic lawyer and prospective 2020 presidential candidate Michael Avenatti represents a woman named Julia Swetnick, who has made grave accusations of sexual misconduct against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Swetnick says she attended parties with Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge in the early 80s at which the pair targeted girls who spiked drinks and then took advantage of them sexually. She said she was raped by multiple people at one such gathering. Kavanaugh and Judge deny any involvement in such activities, and to be clear, Swetnick did not say they were among the individuals who raped her. Merely they were present on the night she was attacked. Avenatti has handled these timely and serious allegations as if he was marketing a new Cloverfield movie. The woman, he posted a picture on his social media that had hashtag truth, hashtag facts, hashtag courage, hashtag justice. It showed a picture of two women. The woman on the right is NBC's Kate Snow, which makes this what it's likely the first ever instance of cryptic hashtag saturated promotional still being used to hype a news interview about being drugged and sexually assaulted. Avenatti's tweet, which for a time appeared on his Twitter feed just below his pinned list of seemingly 2020-minded campaign positions, is not just in poor taste, it also highlights the tactical, questionable way he's handled Swetnick's allegations. Avenatti first publicized her account last Wednesday by posting her sworn declarations on Twitter. While such a formal document is credible in and of itself, NBC appeared to be the first media outlet that Swetnick has spoken to at length, and source told CNN's Brian Selter that they were still verifying details related to her story. That means at least 5 days will have passed between the announcement of her allegations and the first independent reporting that includes an interview with her, 5 days during which Kavanaugh's nomination passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the FBI reopened a background check into him that doesn't appear likely to address her claims. In the meantime, though, Avenatti did find time to tweet confrontationally at Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Chuck Grassley, Fox News' Laura Ingraham, said he'd enjoy embarrassing Ingraham by bringing more information about Swetnick to light, and NBC's Megyn Kelly. Wait, did I say 5 days? That's just who Avenatti has tweeted at since Sunday morning. Before that, he also picked fights related to Swetnick's charges with Senator Ted Cruz, Fox News legal pundit Alan Dershowitz, Fox News host Tucker Carlson, former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, and Donald Trump Jr. This openly partisan approach has had the predictable results of incentivizing Republicans who are calling the shots on the FBI investigation to ignore Swetnick allegations as the work of a porn lawyer. They would have wanted to ignore the allegations anyway, of course, but concerned that Kavanaugh's second accuser, Deborah Ramirez, who went publicly via a New Yorker story that featured material supporting the plausibility of her story, subsequently was included on the list of witnesses to be contacted during the reopened FBI investigation. Ramirez lives in Colorado, has been represented by Boulder attorneys John Clune and Stanley Garnett and D.C. attorneys William Pittard. Public pressure to hear out Kavanaugh's first accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, who is represented by Democratic attorney Deborah Katz, but who came forward by speaking to the Washington Post, was strong enough that the Republicans invited her to testify before Congress. Not everything about the timing of Swetnick's case is under Avenatti's control, of course. She may have felt compelled to speak up in part to support the other women making allegations, but Avenatti doesn't have discretion over the way he discussed Swetnick's claims in public, and the way he's doing so indicates that he sees them in large part as an instrument with which to rally his liberal Twitter fans against Fox News and the Republican Party. In a confirmation process that hinged on the votes of moderate Republican Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who are more likely to care about the opinions of independent voters than MSNBC loyalists, that's not just tasteless, it's self-defeating. Yeah, it seems like he's just stirring the pot and trying to push. He's found something to latch on to help push him, and that's why it's like this article says, Michael Avenatti is doing his best to make all this about Michael Avenatti, which it seems to be clear that case. He needs to disappear back into the hole he came out of. I'm just kind of sick of hearing about him. He's just a lawyer. You should be doing your job as a lawyer and not trying to propel yourself into the political atmosphere just because you made headlines in one pretty monumental case. Like, just stop. Like, I'm sick of these self-important people thinking that just because they're in the public spotlight for doing their job, that entitles them to take the next step to be president. Like, just stick with what you're good at and stop throwing it down our throats. And moving on to something that kind of came out of nowhere that I really wasn't paying attention to, and that involves the U.S. and Canada struck a deal on replacing NAFTA at the last minute. And here's what you need to know. This is an article from Fortune magazine, so it kind of shows the business side of things. So NAFTA is dead. Long live the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, which is such a worse title. NAFTA was so easy to say. No, you can't. What are you going to say? USMCA? No, you have to say USMCA, which that's rebranding. That's all it is. A little over a month after the U.S. and Mexico struck a preliminary agreement on NAFTA's replacement, the U.S. and Canada did the same late Sunday. As hoped, the timing means outgoing Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto gets to sign the USMCA into law just before leaving office. Today, Canada and the United States reached an agreement alongside Mexico on a new modernized trade agreement for the 21st century. The United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, said U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland in a joint statement. The statement reads, USMCA will give our workers, farmers, ranchers, and businesses a high-standard trade agreement that will result in freer markets, fairer trade, and robust economic growth in our region. It will strengthen the middle class and create good, well-paying jobs and new opportunities for the nearly 500 million people who called North America home. We look forward to further deepening our close economic ties when this new agreement enters into force. As for what led the U.S.-Canadian negotiations to a successful finish, a U.S. official briefed reporters that the U.S. won greater access to the Canadian dairy market, in part via an increase in Canadian dairy import quotas. Conversely, Canada won on its demand to maintain NAFTA's Chapter 19 dispute resolution mechanism, a demand that the U.S. opposed because it saw the mechanism as infringing on U.S. sovereignty. Canada also got away without the imposition of hard limits on its auto exports to the U.S. However, according to CBC, the Canadians may still be subject to U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs that are keen to settle that issue before ratifying the USMCA. The new deal reportedly also includes new elements on digital trade and intellectual property. The achievement of a trilateral trade deal makes it more likely the USMCA will gain approval in Congress, which gets to scrutinize the pact once leaders of all three countries have signed it by the end of November, after the election, just for you paying attention to the world of politics. If Congress, which may look very different after the looming midterms, fails to ratify the USMCA, it can't enter into force. So they're putting it off to the end of November because in case things happen with the midterms and there is a switch in, they may have to revisit this. But we'll have to see kind of how this shakes out in the end of November.
Red meat, we crave sustenance.
Guys, we are not invading my aunt.
We are at Casa de Boer with AP and his lovely lady Liz. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming out here. It's actually the first time we've recorded anything at the dining room table, which is cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
We usually go in our family room, and we have the, because we have those, cup holders in our couch,
So
and
the
that's
mic
where we
fits
put the
perfectly
mic,
between there,
and we just sit there.
Get comfy.
That's actually very smart. For those of you who don't know who are listening, Liz and AP co-host together on Adulting Ain't Easy, which will now be opposite this show every other Wednesday on the Journey into Comics Network.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to hear us every week now.
Yeah.
Liz, or at least myself.
Yeah.
Maybe Liz. Who knows?
We'll see.
I love listening to you, Liz.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I love what you contribute to the network.
Gosh, how I just, I don't even know, poke at Andrew.
Yeah, that's
every day.
Sniping.
It's not even.
That's why your podcast works.
Yeah.
We feel the love. Also joining us today, Miss Sarah Van Leaningham. How's it going, girl?
Hi.
Welcome to Foodies.
Yeah, I think I've been on once or twice.
Yeah,
that's it.
You've been making the rounds on the podcast lately, Gallifredio.
Yeah.
That's been fun.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying having you as a co-host for that show.
Mm.
Your knowledge of Doctor Who is unlimited and...
Well, yeah, I know things.
You play piano and you know things.
Pretty much.
I feel like I just was with you guys yesterday because I listened to 3 and 4 back to back at work.
Oh, Gallus Radio.
I was with you guys, but it's no, I was just listening to a conversation you were having without me.
And I was hanging out with you guys last Wednesday, I guess, if that's how we're actually this Wednesday, right? Yeah, it was this Wednesday, episode 10, Wedding Traditions.
Yeah, I love the podcast. It feels like you're kind of listening in on a conversation.
It definitely makes it better. You know, when you kind of get lost in, you're like, man, these are my friends, but like, I feel like I'm there and they're just telling me this story. This is great.
That's why, like, I'll Facebook message you, I'll listen to it, like, usually like comments, like a commentary of what you're talking about.
Or you'll ask me arbitrary questions at like 6:47 in the goddamn morning while I'm still asleep. Like, hey, what did you mean on Journey into Comics when you said this? And I was like,
So look, I'm at work and I'm just like, what is he talking about? Send a message.
so I'm like taking my morning pee, going, what does this say? Rub my eyes a couple times. AP, why is this important? It's 6:47.
First.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So then I'm like texting back like a loose, very nondescriptive response to you, and then crashing. And I'll respond later when I'm more alive. Also joining us on the podcast today, let's not forget our special guest, the doggo Max.
Yeah, he's currently bouncing around a ball around our feet. And
He's the dog of our existence.
He reminds me of the dog Max from the cartoon How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yes, that's why we named him Max.
Oh, really?
Because when he was a puppy, just
Perfect.
Yeah, it was right before Christmas, and
poor Max. We'll play with you later.
So what have you guys been doing since we've been off?
doing adulting ain't easy.
Doing our we've
been doing a lot.
We have been busy with the house stuff and all that. But at least since we've been living together, we've actually watched a lot more stuff, either with TV and movies.
Yeah, especially last week. We watched like probably in the last couple weeks we've watched at least 3 or 4 movies. Just mostly DVD though.
Yeah, we've actually, I'm trying to think of the number, but yeah, we have rented a few that have been good, and we've gone to the theater. And
What did you see at the theater?
We saw Searching, I think was the last movie we saw in the theater.
Oh yeah, it was super good.
Searching.
I recommend it.
Searching was that John Cho movie about his daughter goes missing. It's the whole movie is framed through like through a screen.
Yeah,
so it's
like Unfriended. If you've ever saw Unfriended.
So the whole thing is like it's either through like FaceTime or through like Skype, and like if he's like texting someone, the text pops up on the screen and typing and all that.
It's like through a Mac.
Yeah, like
Weird.
the opening 10 minutes of the movie are sadder than Up in terms of like how it frames it, but it's all like their lives, but it's so it's like, oh, it's like pictures of them, then like setting up an account for their daughter, and then like it kind of evolves and shows like their lives through screens, like through calendar events and through installing like Windows XP, and then like taking pictures of themselves as a little kid and like home videos and stuff. It's really kind of cool.
Interesting.
I really would recommend it. Like
I haven't heard of
so
this
many
movie.
twists and turns.
I think the only reason we heard about it was through Facebook, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll check that out. It sounds interesting.
I think it's.
I don't like sad shit though.
It's
hard.
That's
for
a really
me.
good. It's definitely much a thriller. Like
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
it'll like. I had my parents go see it. My parents are sometimes hit or miss with movies I like, and they both loved it. So.
So it's like a social media thriller.
It's I don't know.
I'm gonna need
It's
to
kinda
look it
like
up.
social media. It's
it's
like
kinda like-
technology.
Oh, technology.
almost.
So it's kind of like Taken, but through screens, kind of,
A little bit, yeah.
but not as actiony.
So taking screenshots.
Ha ha.
Yeah, you really if you watch the trailer, it'll give you all the information you need.
Okay.
About
We'll
how
check out
it's
the trailer
framed.
at some point.
So out of 5 stars for our listeners, what would you just like gut shot reaction? Is this something that is rush out to the theater? Do people need to just go ahead and wait till Netflix gets it?
Give it like a 4.5. I think it's really good.
Oh, that's high marks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good. I mean, you were literally, because I know, like with some horror movies, like you sit there and sometimes it can feel long. Like this one, it was very like action packed on the edge of your seat. Just like there were a lot of twists and turns, and you couldn't really tell what way this was
Right.
going.
There was a lot of false, like a lot of the times you thought it was going to go a certain direction that it didn't. And I wouldn't really call it a horror, but it was very intense. But it's one of those movies I don't think you can watch a second time, because once you know the actual ending, you can't watch it the same way.
That's true, but I think it's still a good movie.
Interesting.
Sometimes I think watching a movie a second time through that lens, though, makes it even better, because you start picking up, oh my gosh, they gave it away 30 seconds into the movie. You could have told,
Right.
known.
That's how I felt about that movie Get Out. Like I loved it the first time, but then the
Yes.
second time I saw it, I was just like, whoa.
You pick up on a lot of little details.
It's all in subtle nuance, man.
So when you talk about it, it took me to like the second watch to notice they all had like the scars here. Like I just didn't notice that at first.
Yeah, all the family members had the scar.
That was a freaky movie.
Trying to think. To
We wa-
counter what?
We watched a lot of movies this summer, like at home. We didn't really go to the theater much.
And they all are either comedy or action based, kinda.
Yeah, they were all your picks. That's why.
I was looking for uplifting, and actually, I have a documentary too that I watched that was great that we can get into.
Okay.
You watched that with me, right? The Perfect Bid.
I told you to watch that.
We did watch it.
We
yeah.
watched it the other day.
It.
Oh.
Yeah. It was one of the days you were in lessons, just in the middle that we just threw it on. And have you guys seen that, The Perfect Bid?
No.
Okay, so it's on Hulu.
Okay.
And it's about this guy, Terry, who his whole life studied The Price is Right. So much so that he would literally document every price for every item that was on every single day.
As a hobby.
He made a computer program.
And eventually
Yeah.
he makes a computer program that he created a Price is Right game where he could just price check and match to see if
For
he could...
himself.
For himself, for his own enjoyment.
Because he liked it.
So then he starts going to tapings and not getting on, but helping other people win and get exact bids and stuff like that. And
Like
if you guys,
calling out the right numbers,
and people are getting perfect bids, which give you an additional $100 and so on and so forth. So the whole thing sets up like his big chance to go on The Price is Right. And he does good, but the Showcase Showdown happens and he doesn't get enough to actually go to the Showcase Showdown when they do this spin on the big wheel. So then he kind of is done. He's had his time. 10 years goes by, and Drew Carey gets the opportunity now to be the host instead of Bob Barker. And after that, they made it where if you'd been more than 10 years since you had been on the show, you could get on the show again. So this dude goes back again. He's like, his name's Theodore, actually, but he's like, I'm going to get on the show again. And he's talking to this other guy in their Price Gaming and whatever. And this other dude goes all the way to the Showcase Showdown, goes all the way to the final, to his bid. And the great controversy of the movie is, how did he know the exact to the dollar perfect bid in the Showcase Showdown? It'd never been done before. Literally perfect. And it's everything that they kind of like.
Probably everything stopped probably when that happened.
Oh yeah, they took like a 20-minute break from TV, and we're like, what do? We got it right. And it was like, well, we're just gonna let him win now, and then we're gonna have to go into it and investigate it. The guy who actually won claims he came up with the bid by himself. Theodore, who was sitting in the front row, was screaming that exact number amount, and there are witnesses that corroborate that he was.
Wasn't it to help the other lady or something?
No, it was to help the dude.
Oh, it was to help him?
He was just like...
He was just helping?
Yeah, because he was like in his head going, okay, because he's also a mathematics professor, so he's really good and fast with numbers too. So he can quickly just go, okay, well, this is on there, this prize, that feature, okay, it's probably this price, and just threw it out there.
And there's no rule in The Price is Right that says, people can't scream out numbers and you can't take their suggestions.
You watch Price is Right, like everyone's doing
Everybody's
that.
doing it.
Everyone's
and people are
numbers.
looking to the audience to get like help, So it's not like he did anything wrong.
Right. If you thrown out a wrong number, it wouldn't have mattered.
Exactly. If he's off by $1, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's like,
somebody-
oh wow, you're pretty close, but
It
was like 26,723. That's
Like-
a pretty exact number.
Right, like that's almost like you knew the number ahead of time, and that's probably why they're like,
And they had also thought, because people were mad that Bob Barker had left, that they were trying to sabotage Drew Carey.
Oh.
So like they thought a fan and somebody who was
cheating.
working on the inside was giving him information of what the Showcase Showdown would be, and that wasn't the case. Like,
so
it's crazy. It is genuinely crazy.
is there a resolution at the end of the...
It was a great documentary. I think you should just watch it.
And actually, I only found this documentary because this one, Sarah, you watched it first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found it.
Did you just scroll through and like, what is this? And then just watch it?
Yeah, I saw Price is Right. I used to watch that all the time. But, yeah, it was good.
Hopefully I did a good representation of what it's about.
It does sound interesting.
It was really good. I enjoyed it. I was like, I was rooting for them, except the guy at the end.
Yeah, and
like,
that's...
Yeah,
he's
he's a scumbag.
Because he claims that he got the perfect bid by himself. And
He
no
said
one
that
helped
him and his wife played like retail shopping games at home to like practice what prices are, on current products that they use
That's
on
how
the
it
game.
works.
Yeah, like he came up with this whole like elaborate thing. I mean, I don't know if he's lying or not, but I think he is.
Well, when you see Theodore's story and the amount of people that he
Right.
actually helped,
Because he helped lots of people.
Yeah, he
win
loved
money
it.
On the price,
Yeah.
because he thought it was fun.
and there was this one kid that they talk about specifically that he went there on The Price is Right to have a certain experience. He said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. every single thing came true. And Theodore helped him with part of that. Which one of those things that was checked off was getting the perfect bid to go up to the next thing. So he won the $100 in the showcase. Well, not the showcase. What is that? The very first part of The Price is Right. What's that first segment called?
I don't know.
Is that usually where they pick the
Contestants Row.
Yeah, Contestants Row, the pricing game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was like $1 more than what the person previous to, just so in case it's the
Jackasses. I always hated people like that.
Would
1201.
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Well, so this is all you need.
Actual retail price, $12.13.
Mm-hmm. Rude.
This motherfucker. Back to it. Another thing you guys have recently seen.
Anything worth noting?
The Meg.
Meg.
I'm such like a shark person in terms like when Shark Week comes on, it's like that's what I want to watch all the time. Like I record all of it.
That's your
I
jam.
didn't do it. Yeah, I didn't do it too much this year because of all the stuff going on here, but whenever a new shark movie comes out, I really like to see it. Not like, I mean, sharks freak me out, but just like seeing how real it is. Right. Like the Meg was really good.
So that's based on an actual shark that existed, right?
Yes. The Megalodon.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
And it's based on and I did some research on, I think I touched a brief on like Porn Entertainment, I think, when I first saw it. But it was basically the guy like wrote the book and then like studios kept picking it up but not be able to do anything with it. So it was like 10 years. It was sitting like in development, dropped by studios, picked back up, and
Statham's in that.
Yeah,
he's the star.
And then they used a lot of. They tried to get a big chunk of the Asian market, so they had cast famous actors from China, I think, and then I think set it in over there, so it. Yeah. Then Jay Statham was going to draw the U.S. crowd, and then they could get more international business by having.
Yeah,
I think China's the largest movie market now. I think they passed the U.S.
Yeah, definitely. They've per capita they do bigger numbers.
Especially since they can't. The Chinese market only accepts a certain amount of U.S. films each year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and not everything makes it over there.
Right.
Obviously.
Wasn't Deadpool 2 that they didn't like it for some weird reason?
I don't know. I'd have to.
There was one weird movie that, like, for some weird detail they wouldn't take it over there.
We'll figure that out in a minute because I have more Deadpool stuff we want to discuss today. But the Meg, let's get back to it. Thoughts?
Rating?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Worth seeing or
I think it's worth seeing. It's definitely more like true to science than some of the other shark movies that I've seen.
I've seen really some pretty awful shark movies. Actually, when Sarah and I went to LA a couple months ago, we were at this record store, Amoeba Records, and upstairs they have a big movie section. Like, oh, you guys, your minds would have been blown seeing all the different collections of movies they had for sale there. And they had one whole section of shark exploitation films.
Yeah, it was a genre tabbed off and everything.
Genre of shark exploitation films. And I was looking through them and I was like, ugh, these look fucking wretched.
We're gonna fuck the sodomites in the...
Mr. Matt Wilcox.
One of my favorite guests on the show ever.
Hola, mis amigos.
How you doing? What are you doing in town? I didn't even know you were in town.
Yeah,
You're just like, hey, I can do a show tonight. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
well, I saw your thing. I was talking to Scott.
That's kind of how it went last time too.
Honestly, yeah.
I just kind of answered the call. Like, that's my plan.
He's a lurker.
Well, last time, wasn't
he's lurking?
Wasn't
When's
last
he
time?
gonna fucking say?
Okay, so last time you were technically on the show, it was Fool's Week, and I
was the host.
Yeah,
yes.
You were the host of Podcaster Fee.
Yeah. I'm your normal host anyway. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, fucking normie.
Yeah, get your stuff together, boy.
So
normally you start the show by asking me how I'm doing and how my week's going.
Hey Tyler,
and no, I don't want you to ask me because you ask me every week, and I always give like the same like blasé response, like, "Oh, my life's really busy." And
excellent verbiage.
Thank you. I was a verb once, but I was gonna ask you how you were doing, but then you started to patronize me when I said you always ask me how my week's going. So now I'm not going to because I don't care anymore.
Yeah, fuck you.
What have you been up to, Matt? It's been a while.
I've just been living life,
How's life out in the fucking Great Blue Yonder?
Chicago sucks.
So you're back in Chicago.
I've lived in Chicago for a while. I was going up to Minnesota for a bit.
That was the last time I spoke to you.
Yeah.
And then I came back from Minnesota after about a month and a half because I was like, dude, living in a hotel is awful.
Oh, it is awful.
Yeah.
It's fucking awful.
And I was having a little bit of health problems because for those of you that don't know, I'm epileptic. So I was having a little bit of health issues, so moved back to Chicago and was with the wife. That way I had at least somebody to take care of me if I had an episode.
Right.
Been kind of just doing my thing up in Chicago. That's really about it. Currently, me and the wife are thinking about moving back to Lafayette.
Yeah?
Like, soon-ish.
Terrible decision.
Well, it's again...
God, I hate this place.
You do. Until you go to someplace much worse. Like
yeah, but
Chicago.
there's places better.
There is. But
this is like a home base. They're regrouping.
Exactly.
Okay, if you're going to use this dump to springboard off like into prosperity, I totally support you, my man.
Like, basically, this is, like you said, it's a regroup. Because I've been having, again, some issues with my health. And it's come back, get that shit in order, and then maybe go to Indy. That way it puts us kind of in between where both of our families are at. Because she's from southern Indiana.
Indy's not terrible in the right spots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're looking probably suburbs.
Yeah, if you hit the outskirts like Noblesville, Fishers, Westfield, Avon.
Well, we're looking at a place I think it was called Greenwood. I want to say
Greenwood's not bad.
Yeah, Greenwood's not terrible.
It's kind of small town. I mean,
So.
it's about as small town as you can get in the greater metropolitan fucking Indianapolis area.
Fucking comments are getting lit up with Minnesota.
Yeah, I went to Minnesota. People actually talk like that up there.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
And
it's one of my favorite things.
How many bubblers did you hit, pal?
They're absurdly nice. Like, I had the best service in my life at the Best Buy up in Minnesota.
How long did it take them to say goodbye every time you left anything?
Honestly, not that long.
Really?
Yeah.
The Minnesota long goodbye is like famous.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to stay overnight and
I
everything.
never had that issue.
Then you got to stay for breakfast.
Then you got to stay for breakfast.
Then you got to stay for lunch.
Have you seen this video?
Yes, we've talked about it on the show.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. There's this video, and it's this guy trying to explain how to be Minnesotan.
I don't think I've seen this video.
There's like
It's
one.
pretty good.
It's like a
I'll have
half
to
hour
check it out
long.
later, yeah.
And at one point, they're talking about how to have a conversation with someone on the street. It's like you both face the street, and you are 45-degree angles towards each other, but never directly toward each other.
Mm-hmm.
You never make eye contact, but you're extremely polite. And you'll never talk over the other person.
Oh no, everybody's extremely polite. It's ridiculous. It was uncomfortable how nice people were. And honestly, I was.
But specifically
a bit over it. Too.
Specifically at the Minnesota Best Buy.
Yeah, man. Like I went in there, and because I needed a USB to Type-C cable.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there, and the guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, can I help you find something there?" And I'm like, "I'm looking for a Type-C to USB." And he's like, "Oh yeah, they're right over here. Let me show you where they are." I get over there.
I like how they use D's instead of T's.
Yeah.
Because they do that.
Yes, they do.
Over there.
Over there. Yeah. So I'm like at the cables, and he's like, "Yeah, you got this one right here, and you can do this with it." And I'm like, I know what I'm doing, man. Like,
Do you remember Kevin?
Which one?
Minnesota guy at Pheasant
Yeah,
Run?
I did know that guy. I remember him. Yeah, he got really drunk when we went to see The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
and our
he
friend
invited himself along, too.
Yeah, our friend Justin was going to beat the shit out of him. It was funny as hell.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, hey, guys. What are you guys doing?" We were, like, literally on our way to the cars to go last second to the...
It was opening night.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, care if I join?" Yeah, sure, dude.
You can get a ticket, which he got a ticket somehow. Then he passed out in the middle of the movie.
No, not even the middle. It was like 15 minutes in.
Was it 15 in?
And he was out the whole movie.
Yeah, he was out the whole movie. Cause
occasionally he would...
Well, I just remember, like, at the end of it, we looked over at him, he was asleep. And, like, the kids in front of us, like, looked up at him and said, "How the fuck do you fall asleep during that?" And we're just like, I don't know. It's from Minnesota, I guess.
It's a Minnesota thing.
I guess.
Dude, I remember the one time I made...
what it was.
Yeah. I remember the one time I made fun of his Crocs. You weren't there for that,
I wasn't
were you?
there for that.
So this guy was like mine and our friend Justin's neighbor at Pheasant Run.
Okay.
Our bottom floor neighbor. And he had like the studio, like 1-room apartment. And one time I just noticed he was wearing Crocs. And I was like, what the fuck are those? He's like, what? And I was like, you're wearing Crocs, dude. He's like, yeah, my mom and dad got them for me. What's wrong with them? I'm going pickles right now. That's not Minnesota.
Yeah, that's not Minnesota at all. But hey, it's all right.
It's been a while since I've done Minnesota or made fun of him.
It's all right there, bub. How many times did you get bubbed in one sentence?
Not really. I
Not
don't
too
think
much.
because that's
I
more
was
of a
asking
Wisconsin
that.
thing. That's more of a Wisconsin thing.
Well, here's the thing. Like, where I worked at in Minnesota, there actually wasn't that many people from Minnesota. Like, we
Okay.
had, like, 3 people in our entire office that were born and raised there, and those were the people that had the accent. Everybody else was, like, from fucking San Francisco and shit, and so, like, I didn't experience much, but, like, I went out to a couple bars with a few of these guys, and, yeah, it was weird. One lady brought a fucking pet snake to a bar.
Yeah,
And, like,
that's typical Minnesota
yeah,
right
and
there.
she was like, do you want to hold my snake? I'm terrified of snakes. And I'm like, no, get that fucking thing away from me. And then we got into, like, me and this dude got into this big old religious debate. I was minding my business, and he started, like, going, like, very hateful at people who are religious, and I just said, hey, man, like, just...
There's no need, man.
I'm like, I believe in God. Like, that's all I said. And he just kept, like, ripping
Needling
into
ya.
me about it. He was like, how can you believe in a person that's a literal motherfucker? And I was just like, what is your fucking problem, man?
God is like a motherfucker. How could you believe in him?
And he was like, and I pointed out the thing. I was like, you realize there's no such thing as actual, like, scientific, like, law. Everything is a theory.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't actually know.
Right.
Like, we have good evidence, but we don't actually know. And he was like, yes, you do, because there's experiments and stuff. And I was like, again, we have evidence. But that's just the law of large numbers. Who's to say it's not fucked up one other time, you know?
Right.
I don't know. I was just like, listen, man, like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. I'll believe what I want to believe. I'm not hating on you for whatever, dude. Like,
Yeah.
You do your thing. I'll do mine. But he just wouldn't drop it. And I had some guy, like, I was driving us to the other bar. And I had this other dude in the back seat, and he just kept going, yeah, look out the window. Like, he was so uncomfortable, and I felt terrible for him. But whatever. Fuck that other dude.
Hey, look at that window. Look out the window.
Yeah, he was really drunk. But he was just really so uncomfortable. He was trying to get us to talk about anything. And we went to go karaoke.
Oh.
And, like, by the time I got to karaoke,
In
I was so
Minnesota.
not in the fucking mood to karaoke that I actually just left them. I was like, fuck you guys. You can get an Uber back.
I'm out.
Pretty much. It's almost exactly how it went down.
I'm sorry you didn't get to karaoke.
I am too. I was going to sing Iris by Goo Goo Dolls.
Nice.
It's one of the go-tos.
Nice.
I'm not a karaoke guy.
I'm a karaoke gay.
I mean, if Blaine and I were out on a fucking night of debauchery and he said, hey, we're gonna go do some karaoke, okay, I'll go. And then if he said, hey, I picked your song out and I looked up and it was Country Roads by John Denver, how can I resist?
I'm not going to deny
Or
this.
fucking
I'm not
Tiny-
going to deny
Tiny
myself this
Dancer
pleasure.
by Elton John, I'm fucking up there.
Dude, I'm pretty much... I love karaoke so much that I might as well be Asian. So, like...
Really?
I love it. Like, I don't get to go often because no one else likes to do it. But...
I mean, that's at least... You can at least understand why no one else likes to do it.
I understand. But it just makes me so sad.
Civilized people typically don't like to do it.
I'm not civilized.
Well, like...
It's usually like the lower...
I'm a
the
Neanderthal.
lower echelon of society that likes
Are you
karaoke.
saying that Asian people are the lower echelon of society? It's 2018. You're a racist.
I didn't say that.
You
I did
bigot!
not.
I'm sorry, I think...
You're
I
a
need to leave.
Nazi.
You've offended me.
But yeah, like for me, part of it, like I don't have so much social anxiety, and I've gotten my overall anxiety issues under control the last couple of years.
Lucky.
But it was tough, and for me, all it was a career change, and getting sleep. Those two things fucking fixed me 90%. I mean, for a while, it was to the point where I couldn't function around other human beings because my anxiety meter was hitting the fucking rev limiter 24 hours a day.
That's where I'm at in Chicago right now. Like, I'm on edge 24/7 whenever I'm like downtown or anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm ready to fist fight somebody on an instant basis. Like, I remember in April, we were going to a bar with a friend of mine, and we're all like talking, going down the street, and then some guy comes up to us and just says, "You want to say it to my face? We're not even fucking talking about him." And then, like, luckily my friend's just like, "Yo, no, we're good, man," and he just kept walking. While me, on the other hand, I'm about to just ground and pound the shit out of this dude. Because I got about 45 pounds on him. And I got a beard, so that should do something. Like, this kid's probably in college, like a freshman in college. I'm going to fuck him up.
I tried to fight a guy once for wearing salmon-colored shorts, so I totally understand, my man. I'm right there. Like, you and I might actually be the same human being.
We might be. We both have beards. We both have Patriots hats on.
Yeah.
Both extremely handsome men.
Goddamn right we are.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Can you hand me my other Corona, please? I even asked nicely.
I didn't even have a beer.
Thank you, my good
Would
sir.
you like a beer?
Sure, why not?
Why, sure, pal.
Would you like a zombie buzz?
I don't care. Just give me something. I'll just drink it.
I also have Pepsi if you don't want beer.
Just give me something. I have a water bottle right here, too.
Well, you're going to get some good, delicious alcoholic beverages.
All right.
So, yeah, like, for me, the karaoke thing, it's like, yeah, I'm out with people that I want, and then the social anxiety that I never have, you get up there on stage, and it's like, whoa. I don't feel comfortable up here.
See, my thing is, like, at karaoke, how many people are actually good? None. No one is good at karaoke.
But my luck, I'm always going to be at the karaoke bar with that one fucking guy. That one fucking guy that's just up there killing it.
That makes karaoke his life.
Yes, that is just fucking killing it.
Have you ever noticed, like, the chicks who sing country music are, like, they all have the exact same voice?
Yes.
It's always the same generic karaoke.
I like country music, but
I'm not saying anything
music
about country music.
Mostly sounds the same from singer to singer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's also the same with almost any genre of music anymore, especially like hip-hop and pop music because of so much auto-tune.
Right.
And tempo.
It's 90% the computer.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's just kind of the... I've really grown away from music the older I get because to me, it sounds all the same.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, you really have two options. You can either slightly adapt and evolve with the changing of the music and, like, find something new to like, which I've done a little bit, but I just listen to the same shit that I listened to when I was a teenager.
That's
and
what I do.
Then I don't have to worry about it, you know?
Like, I'll listen to a little bit of newer stuff if it's, like, catchy enough, or, like, I'm like, you know what, that sounds pretty good. But for the most part, I listen to the exact same bands I listened to when I was in high school.
Welcome, my mom, Mary Bean. How are you today?
I'm good, and I know I can't live up to the hype, but okay.
Oh, you're definitely going to be fine. I don't have that big of an audience, so really you just don't have to let down like 3 people.
Okay, so
I think you can.
So Larry
that, right?
and
actually Larry, I don't think listens to this, but he, you know, when he found out that you were going to be on it, he might actually check this episode out because he loves you. So
okay,
but yeah, we've been teasing that you were going to be my first guest. So I'm excited that we can finally make this happen. We've been trying for a few weeks and it just hasn't worked out time-wise. Which is the same reason Ashley's like quitting the show now, because we just time-wise it's just hard to line up. So
So she's quitting the show.
she'll be back every once in a while, but she's not my permanent co-host anymore.
Oh.
So it's just me by my lonesome for a while. But I think now
Chris with all his friends.
Excuse me. I just inhaled some pop right before we started recording, so I'm going to be hacking through the episode. But what was I going to say?
About her not being.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure you were my first guest. I've got other people. I've got other people that want to come on and be guests, but I wanted you to be my first. So now that you're my first guest and we're getting this guest episode out of the way, I feel like I can have a new guest, hopefully every other week, and I won't have to worry about a co-host. I'll still have somebody to talk to instead of having to talk by myself.
Sit here and talk to yourself.
Well, I did that for one episode, and I was only able to make it 35 minutes, and it was I don't think anybody's going to want to hear this, but it was okay. But, oh man, we're both clipping all over the place already.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
It's a technical term that you don't have to worry about. I just need to worry about adjusting my microphones. So, first, I guess... God damn it. The first thing, I guess, just kind of catch everybody up on the last couple weeks with the kids, just because that's how we start every episode. And... we were just talking about right before I started recording, it's not like you don't know my kids, so feel free to interject if there's something you want to add to
I've
this.
met them, yeah.
Yeah, a few times, right? Mm-hmm. Mark's football team, I think this was right after the last episode. Mark's football team lost a game. I think the last episode we were talking about how they were still undefeated and they had outscored their opponents 140-something points to 13.
But you don't really count that when they're in Little League. Or not Little League. Oops, sorry.
Pop Warner.
Pop Warner.
Well, in his age, it does matter.
Oh, they do count.
Yeah, because the playoffs start in a couple weeks, and if they go through the playoffs and they win state, they could be invited to play in a tournament in Orlando.
Ooh, so well, then I get to go.
The points matter in his age, which is crazy. This is the first, most competitive thing we've been involved in so far. I mean, his baseball team was pretty competitive, too. But not like this. This is a whole nother level. But yeah, so right after the last episode when we were bragging about his team being undefeated, they lost their next game.
That's what you get.
It was a good game. The team they played against was very good. They played against Portage. And they had one kid on their team that I think he scored all their points, and he was just unstoppable, the fastest kid on the field. And we have a kid like that, too, that scores probably 90% of our points, but this kid was just, nobody could tackle him. Nobody could get in front of him even. It was a mess. But they didn't.
And these are first and second graders, or what? What is the age?
It's 7, 8, and 9-year-olds from 75 pounds to 115 pounds.
Oh, they do have a weight thing. Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's a safety thing.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because they could hurt somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, there was a kid on Mark's team, a friend of ours, their son Gavin. It's his first year playing also, but he's I think 9 already. So the only thing stopping him from going up to the next division was his weight. So he had to cut weight at the beginning of the season just to make sure he made the official weigh-in for the beginning of the season.
Really?
Because otherwise, the kids the next level up are so much more aggressive than these kids are. Because in Mark's age, he's in what's called Mighty Mites. There's only one division under his, which is Tiny Mites. Mm-hmm. Which the Tiny Mites, it's hysterical watching the Tiny Mites on the field. They don't keep score in Tiny Mites, but Mark's age is the first one where they do keep score. And they're learning the fundamentals of the game. They're learning pass plays. They're learning... they're learning plays in general. It's not just here, hand this kid the ball, he's going to run with it. It's here's your route. These are the guys you need to run between. The blockers need to push this way, and it gets a little more involved. Mm-hmm. But the next step up is junior peewees, and the coach for the junior peewee team is intense. They practice right next to us on some days. And you just hear him screaming the whole time.
Really?
God dang it, I said do this.
You
better run it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, now see, I think that's too much.
But you know
I don't agree with that kind of crap.
The kids respond to it, though.
I'm sure they do, but I don't like that stuff.
That's
if you will vaguely remember, you had some baseball coaches at one point that were like that.
Well, that's because Coach Midkiff.
I wasn't going to name any names, but there were a couple. There were a couple of coaches.
I promise he's not listening.
Well,
to this.
there were a couple of coaches in particular that I remember a lot of the parents getting really ticked off because they were really, really hard on you guys, and I felt it was a little ridiculous.
Coach Midkiff was at one point the Pop Warner coach.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So he had that football mentality that he brought to the baseball field, and
which wasn't necessary.
I didn't like it because I, up to that point, was not used to that. Now, Coach Bales, who was Mark's
the athletic director,
he was Mark's assistant coach because his son was Mark's coach.
Yeah.
Coach Bales was like that too sometimes, to a certain extent. He was a little intense, but he used his intensity to kind of get the point into our heads. Coach Midkiff just seemed like he was
a hothead.
He was just mean for the sake of being
and
mean.
I just remember him just screaming at you guys when you were out on the field, and it was like, and what is that doing besides embarrassing those kids that are out on the field? But
I remember, and I'll never forget this. I was not that bad at baseball, but I also wasn't that great. There was one time that I was playing for Coach Midkiff, and I hit the ball out to, shallow left field or something, let's say. Mm-hmm. It was a single, a base hit single. There was nobody on, so there was nobody running ahead of me. And I got to first base, and my first base coach, which may have been Coach Midkiff, I don't remember, was telling me, stop, stop, stop. But the throw came in from left field. They overthrew the first baseman, and I saw it go past the first baseman, so I took off and went to second. Mm-hmm. Even though the coach was telling me stop, I took off and went to second because I saw the overthrow and I knew I could make it. Mm-hmm. So the first baseman scoops up the ball. He throws it to the second baseman, misses the second baseman, and goes back out into the outfield. I take off for third base.
I think I remember that.
The outfielder picks up the ball, throws it to third base, misses the third baseman.
I remember that.
So I run home.
That.
I got an in-the-park home run on a lazy single.
Yeah, I remember
and
that. And
instead of cheering me on or anything, I get back to the dugout and the coach says, you're going to have to run laps on Monday because we told you to stop.
And you said, you're welcome.
Way to just kill any chance I ever had of overachieving in my life, you know.
Well, I do have to say, though, I also have very vivid memories of you when you were playing baseball, just standing in the outfield and spitting on the ground and kicking the dirt, kicking the dirt where you spit to make mud, and that's pretty much what you were doing, when the balls were being hit or not hit by you. So it was kind of like, if something had come out by you, you would have got hit on the head because you were looking.
But that was like little league.
That was last year.
When I played for Coach Midkiff, I was in. I don't remember. I want to say 4th or 5th grade already at that point. So I was already understanding the game, and I was actually playing the game. I just wasn't as athletic as some of the other kids were.
You honestly weren't that interested, honestly.
By the time I got to that age, I enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
I know when I was a kid, it was not. I remember it not being that fascinating to me, but I do remember when I got to the majors was when I started having fun with the game, and then of course, go figure, I have the worst coach in the league. I guess I shouldn't call him the worst coach. I don't know if he was the worst coach or not, but I just didn't like him, and he really, at a point when I was actually starting to enjoy the game of baseball, he really almost smashed that into the ground.
Well, honestly, I think he smashed that for a lot of kids, and that's what all of us parents kind of were mad about.
And luckily, I know you talked to the league the next year, and you were able to get me to switch teams, which they didn't usually do that in the majors. Right. Once you started on one team, they made you finish on that team.
Yeah.
But, I got switched to another team, and I remember running into Coach Midkiff after that, and he was just like, "Oh, you didn't want to play for me anymore."
You said, "No, you're a jerk."
I should have. I should have, except for I was 11, so I wasn't going to say that to an adult.
And he was still a little bit taller than you, just
But anyway.
Okay, about the kids.
So Gavin didn't want to go into the junior peewees, so he cut weight before the season started, which is a lot to ask a 9-year-old to do, but he worked hard.
I can't believe. Yeah, I don't know.
He worked hard for it. He was only drinking water, and his mom
know.
was. I know it's a lot for a kid, but it's a good age to teach them discipline if that's something they want to do. It's not, by no means was it something that his mom and stepdad were making him do. He at no point were they hey, you have to cut weight.
Yeah.
He did it on his own because he wanted to end up in this age group, and So he worked really hard at it, and which I think is, for a 9-year-old to have that kind of discipline, I think was great. Like he was, like I said, he was drinking nothing but water. He would go in the middle of summer. He would go out to the basketball court because they live right next to the basketball court at Liberty Park, and he would throw on a couple of hoodies in the summer and go play basketball so he could sweat it out. And
I don't know about that. See, I don't know.
And he's whatever. You know what though? He's doing great in this age division. He's I mean, nobody can get past him. He's
me, I'm a non-sporty person. So to me, it's kind of like, I don't know.
So I don't, there are some parents, and surprisingly, I wasn't sure how it was going to be with the football parents, because, you know, when you grow up in a football town, which we live in, you kind of get the impression that the football parents are like, basically like, what do they call the little girls, the pageant moms and stuff.
Yeah, that's
that's the impression you get of the football parents. Is that
I would
the
think
kids
so.
don't even care about the game. It's the
parents are
like,
pushing
you
about
better do this, you better do.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen from the parents on Mark's team and even on the other teams, that they all practice on the same fields at the same time. So we see all the parents there. And it's nothing but support. It's nothing but wanting the kids, and not just their kid, it's wanting all of the kids to succeed. And, you know, there's a real good sportsmanship driven into the kids' heads, real good, like, sense of playing for a team, not playing for themselves, kind of. I really...
There's no I in team.
Honestly, it's been great. You know, whenever something... You know, Mark... You know, Mark's not the most athletic kid either. He's kind of lazy. He likes the video games, you know. He's a typical 8-year-old kid that doesn't... We've found it hard to find a sport that he really enjoys. This one he seems to really, really enjoy. He doesn't still try as hard as I think he could. But the nice thing is, like, whenever he does something, like he misses a block or something, and they'll pull him from the game and put somebody else in because he missed his block. Instead of getting to the sidelines and the kids are like, "Hey, you need to do this," they pat him on the back and say, "Hey, get him next time. You know, just try harder next time."
That's
and
good.
To see at that age, to see kids doing that instead of just being like, "Hey, I'm the best player on the team, and you guys can't do this." It's strange, but it's really nice, and that's why I've really liked him playing for this football team. I think
good.
It's a good attitude they get into these kids' heads.
Well, that's good.
So
anyway,
I've enjoyed it. Yeah. But yeah, so his team lost, but they didn't get their butts kicked or anything. It was a real close game the whole time. It honestly came down to the last 2 minutes, and they couldn't pull it out.
Yeah.
But then they turned around this last weekend and they won 45-10 or something like that.
Good.
So they're back on top again. Let's see, the girls, they play their last soccer game this Saturday. Which by the time this episode comes out, it'll be tomorrow, is their last soccer game. And this last game they played this past weekend, they're finally starting to try.
I just was going to say, are they liking it now?
Yeah, they're actually running around and kicking the ball around. And Livy, as ungraceful as she is, she's actually getting pretty good and coordinated with kicking the ball around.
Good.
The only thing she's afraid of, like when there's a kid coming at her with the ball and she's on defense and she's supposed to turn the ball around and get it to go the other way, she's like a little afraid to step in front of them when they're coming at her.
Yeah, well,
so
she's afraid she's going to get kicked.
She gets
probably
off to the side and she, like, as they're coming by, she tries to just kick it sideways or something. Which, it works, but she just needs to be a little more aggressive about it. Scarlett has the aggressive part down, but she gets bored fast because she doesn't have a very big attention span. So like she'll be out there for a couple of minutes and then all of a sudden she'll just be like, I don't want to do this. And
honestly, I think it's really hard to have kids in a sport at that age because they don't have the attention span.
It is. And
they don't like to
we knew that
do anything for very long.
We knew that going in, and we've expected that, and that's why we try not to, we don't take it too hard on them when they don't participate. We at least want them to try. That's all we're asking. Like we don't say, hey, you better do this and you better. It's just like, hey, just play.
It's time for Brews with Dudes. Ah, juicy.
This is a very special episode. We are down at Brokerage Brewing Company in West Lafayette, which just so happens to be the oldest brewery in West Lafayette.
And first.
We're sitting down here at their inaugural Oktoberfest celebration, and we have the great honor, or whatever, of
most
sitting
prestigious
here.
award of being able to sit here.
It is actually kind of like a big honor for you guys. I'm so happy for you.
We are sitting here with Brokerage's head brewer, only brewer, the master brewer, Mr. Corey. I don't know your last name. What's
Patterson.
Patterson. Mr. Corey Patterson.
Mr. Corey Patterson, the one and only.
The
R&D that's actually true. So, crazy story. There's a baseball player named Corey Patterson that shares the same birthday with me.
No way.
He used to play for the Chicago Cubs. He played, I think, right field.
Wow.
So if you Google me, it's really hard to find me, which is actually kind of awesome.
That is kind of cool. That is kind
That's
of
really
cool.
good.
It's hard
I've
to...
Googled myself before and nothing came up. Nobody wants to know about me.
There are several Nick Maxons. It's kind of sad. Some of them are like more successful than me, so I don't really pop up in the first 10 or 20. Yes, there are at least 10 Nick Maxons. I like to think that I'm the most colorful, and perhaps.
Well, with your tattoos, I think that's a yes.
I'm colorful,
and certainly the most handsome.
Thank you. That's what I needed to hear. So let's not.
I tell him every day, and he never believes me.
We are going to drink a whole flight.
It's actually a pretty large flight. We got
these are big. These are big. Cups,
We got 6 beers here. We're sitting on this flight. This is a 6-beer flight. It's actually in a chunk of wood. Like somebody took like a 2-inch cut out of a stump and just put some holes in it for your.
We took some pictures.
Glasses.
We took some pictures for you folks, so you'll see what we're talking about. It's seriously one of the cooler flight
trays.
That's the word.
I honestly wish I could remember who made them, but I can't. It's the same people who did the interior woodwork in the brewery. So if you go into the brewery, there's a lot of nice like raw wood trim around the windows and stuff. That was the same guy who did that. Did our flight boards for us.
That's awesome. I remember commenting when we walked up because I've driven past the front, but I've not walked up front. I usually come in through the back, and I was like, "Damn, this place looks like nice, isn't it?"
It's super cool looking. It's
really nice.
Really cool.
Yeah, I'm so used to coming in this back way up this little ramp area because it's just so easy to just park right here and go.
Oh, sure.
Because out front's more on the street and there's street parking, and
that's
usually full.
We were kind of, there's a lot of breweries opening up that had that like kind of like post-industrial like raw ironwork stuff, which I actually, from a personal standpoint, I really like. But
yeah,
I think it was a deliberate decision on our part to kind of like break from that a little bit. I mean, we're a little bit warmer of a brewery, so to speak. We like tend to be super friendly, and it's like more neighborhood oriented than like beer
cozy.
geek oriented.
Yeah,
It's very cozy. It's very open and welcoming. Like the whole front patio is great with all the chairs you can sit on. You can take a beer outside when it's nice and just sit on the and just enjoy yourself.
You're sitting on the porch.
Yeah,
Sitting
bring
on
your
the
dog,
porch,
man. We love
drinking,
them.
Having yourself a patio beer. Porch
beers.
Porch beer.
Porch beers.
Porch beer. Speaking of beers, I'm ready to dive into our first one, the Wandering Neighbors Fest beer.
Sure thing. So this is my beer that I did for our Oktoberfest celebration. It's a German-style lager, I think it's right around 6%. It's a little bit lighter than what most people in America think of when they think of like Oktoberfest-style beers.
Definitely.
But this is more true to the style of beer you get in Munich when you go to Oktoberfest. They moved away from like the Märzen-style Oktoberfest, and I think it was the 90s, and went to something that's a little bit lighter to drink because it's way easier to drink a large quantity of.
Yes.
Oh, this is good.
That's the goal.
This is
to drink a lot of it.
Oktoberfest is my favorite style of beer.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like, this is my favorite season when it comes to beer. I'm going everywhere and doing everything I can to find every Oktoberfest I can. And I'm even going back to breweries that I've, like, stopped checking out because I want to see if they've come up with a new Oktoberfest, because not everybody does it. But it's becoming more popular over here as craft beer's been picking up, so now I'm like a kid in a candy store when it comes to, like, to the Oktoberfest part of the beer.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
when I start seeing like those little light blue and white diamonds on like cans and bottles, I'm like, fall is here. This is great.
It's that time.
And I'm always peeking around the corner, and it's like it's right there at the end of August, and I'm like, where is it? Where is my fucking Oktoberfest?
Or like late June if it's Sam Adams Oktoberfest. So
yeah, but that's Sam Adams. They really jumped the gun on a lot of stuff. Like I think you can get their winter lager now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why? If you're listening, why, Santa?
Why?
Why you got to be like that? This is phenomenal. It's you can see through it. It's
Great quality in a lager.
It goes down so easy.
I could
delicious.
I could drink this all day and not realize how drunk I'm getting.
Oh, absolutely. And I was really hoping we would have the liter mugs here for the Oktoberfest because I really want to drink this in a liter mug.
Big old Stein.
Oh, absolutely.
I was actually able to pick up a Stein just the other day from the pint over there.
Oh, did you do one of the Steinoffs or whatever?
No, Victory and I can't remember the name. Hofbrauhaus.
Hofbrauhaus.
Yeah, Hofbrauhaus.
Yeah.
They were had some complimentary Steins they sent over to them with their Oktoberfest beers. So if you bought one of those, you're able to keep your Stein. And so I have a Hofbrauhaus one, and it's got a traditional German-style woman with two Steins holding up, and it says Oktoberfest on the banner across the top of her, and it's super
awesome.
cool. And
yeah, that's pretty dope.
I specifically went straight there for that. I wanted to get a Victory one, but by the time I got there, they were completely gone.
When we went the week before for that Three Floyds Tap takeover, we got there 15 minutes after it started, and almost everything was gone because people just flooded it.
Oh, yeah, I believe it.
How many people are not doing anything at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday?
Apparently enough.
A lot.
We were able to get the last two Three Floyds Zombie Dust special tulip cups.
Oh, the little take-you glasses, or were they like proper
weird.
tulips?
It's weird. It's about.
It goes out and then back in, but
it has a short, thick stem on the bottom, and then it has an elongated top on the tulip.
So almost like a Belgian tulip. Have you ever seen the ones that
La
Truth does?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, and it has the Zombie Dust symbol on one side, and then it has the Three Floyds logo.
Ah, man, those are dope.
And it's actually the Zombie Dust is actually the green and all that color, so it's really cool. And then they're also doing it with War Pigs. Yeah, here's a picture of it for you.
Oh man, that is crazy looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they were doing War Pigs as well, and War Pigs was giving away a War Pigs short pint. So it was a pint, so it was just shorter and wider. So it was a larger cup, so it was just so we were able to get that too.
Speaking of awesome cups, these silicone cups that you guys have
are
they're awesome.
Unfortunately, folks, they're sold out. I apologize. I got the last two.
Yeah.
We got the last of them.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're definitely gone. Oh, that's right. You got
because of everybody at the table.
So
Corey here had the last two.
We all got the last four.
We're two just hiding behind the bar, and we're like, need those now.
So yeah, I'm not sure who came up with this idea. They showed up at the brewery doorstep one day, and I'm like, what are these? Oh, they're cups. Oh, they're not glass. They're silicone.
I'm digging it.
No, Nick and I joked that we're gonna get drinking on those, get drunk, and start throwing them at each other.
Just because we can.
Because we can.
It's like if you ever get angry at each other, have a fight but not hurt each other. Silicone
Who has
cups.
not gotten drunk and got angry at their friends and wanted to hit them with a cup?
Nobody.
Yeah. Without threat of hospitalization.
It's like dodgeball for alcoholics.
We need more than 2 cups. I slammed through that one. Are you?
I've been done.
All right.
So
good. Is it time for number 2, or is it always a dragon?
Always a dragon. That would be a good second one to go for.
Ooh, yeah. I was actually stopped in here for a minute yesterday, and that's what I got.
Yeah. So this is a very traditional style English brown porter. It's kind of my love poem to the first brewery I worked at, Yakida. Chip does amazing English style beers. His Big Pit Porter, I think, is one of the finest examples of the style. So I decided this was one of the first, I think, 10 beers that we brewed, and it's one of the very, very few that comes back every 2 or 3 months or so. We tend to do a lot of rotating and one-off styles because of the size of the brewery. It's very small, so I have the fortunate ability. Yeah, absolutely.
So, you said it's small, but maybe explain to the listeners a bit about your system you have going here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so Brokerage Brewing Company, we're a nano brewery. We have a 3.5 barrel system, which roughly translates into about 7 kegs at a time. We brew about 2 or 3 times a week. And the nice thing about being this small is that we can be very nimble. So I don't have to plan out quarterly, yearly projections like I had to at my last job. I can be what do I have left for grain? Oh, I've got enough to do a wee heavy. That's what we're doing this week.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
I feel like every time I come in, even if it's, every couple weeks, there's always at least one or two new beers.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because this is the third place I've worked, and I've never seen so many regulars, like 1 day a week regulars, get flights consistently over the course of the 9 months that we've had our own beer.
Yeah.
I just don't get what's going on.
It's great. It's a great allure to it too, because it's this nice, real warm, welcoming place. But you're almost guaranteed to have a new beer every time you come in.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it is. People come in oh yeah, I was here last week, but there's one new beer, so I have to get all these other ones plus that one. I'm like,
yep.
Okay,
I got to. I don't have a choice.
Have to. It's so hard to choose just one.
I really, really like the roastiness on this.
Oh, sure,
one.
yeah.
It's phenomenal.
That malty roast right there at the back end just...
Yeah, so you get
really sets the tone on it.
Yeah, a little bit of chocolatiness. You get a little bit of that kind of almost like the bitter roast malt, but it's kind of restrained. It uses a lot of brown malt, which I really like. It's kind of like chewing on a dark wheat toast crust.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
I love a lot.
I love wheat toast. I love toast. That's
love
one of the most genius cooking things ever. Who looked at bread? You know what? Cook it again.
I don't know. You guys, no, don't worry. You didn't mess it up the first time. You did mess it up the first time, but
It was
this time,
No, this is good.
Go a
but
little bit more.
I've got an idea.
You know what? Let's cook this shit again. Let's see how this goes.
Hold my beer.
It came out and be you know what would be great on this? Fucking butter.
You're making me hungry. It's what you're doing. That's all you're accomplishing right now. Oh my goodness. This is phenomenal. I'm really digging this one.
Thank you. Yeah, it's as a beer drinker, I'm not a very traditional. I don't drink a lot of porters and stouts. It's just not kind of my jam. But I actually really, really like making them.
Yeah,
I think they're some of the most challenging beers to do in and still have a delicate balance to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what made me appreciate stouts more is the home brewing. Was once I made it, because I really like coffee, so I was like, I'm gonna make a beer with coffee in it. And after that, I was like, okay, now I'm just gonna drink stouts.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And when I was first getting into craft beer and that stouts and porters, as soon as I saw that, and I'm like, nope, didn't even want to try it because they were just. My palate hadn't been built up to be able to taste everything it had, because that's one thing a lot of people notice, that people that don't drink more craft beers or heavier beers, they can't taste all the flavors in it. So you'll get an IPA and they're like, man, that tastes like flowers, or they can only taste the really bitterness part of the porters and stouts, and they're like, oh man, that's so bitter and awful.
Yeah, it's always a learning curve.
And it takes a little bit for your palate to be able to taste all the different flavors and nuances within it. And now that I drink more craft beers and stuff, stouts and porters, that's what I look for first when I go to a new brewery. If I haven't been there, I was like, okay, what stouts and porters do you have? And I have noticed that oatmeal stouts and brown porters are normally the ones they generally have until you find something else where you'll get an imperial stout.
Sure, yeah. I'm much the same way when I go to a brewery for the first time. I get their lightest beer, I get their darkest beer, and then I get their IPA, because that gives me a pretty good idea of what their philosophy is towards brewing styles, techniques. And I'm a fizzy yellow beer junkie. That's kind of my jam. So if you've got a good fizzy yellow beer, I'm going to be a hardcore fan for life.
That is a good way. That's a good way to do it. Light, dark, and the IPA.
Yeah, it gives
I do still pretty much get the IPA. That's one of my first things. I'm like, what kind of IPA do you got?
Yeah. Well, we have all of them.
We have every single one.
We have all the IPA.
White IPA, black IPA, red IPA.
All of them.
Bake it.
Black IPA,
boil
that's
it.
the one that's the only thing I haven't been able to really get behind is the black IPA.
Have you
Just
ever
because it seems to me it's so hard to find a good one, because I think I don't know if it's more difficult to make them.
So brewer's recommendation, I like Anger by Greenbush. Is, in my opinion, the best example of a black IPA I've ever had.
By Greenbush.
By Greenbush Brewing Company, yeah. It's do you guys get Greenbush down here? Sorry,
I
folks,
know.
I'm from up north, so I don't know what's going on.
I don't know if we do. I know I've heard of it, but I don't think it's in our stores.
Get up north because I have family up north, and I can just hit up to Fort Wayne and be like, hey guys, I'm here to visit.
For sure.
And get some beer.
I'm actually just here for beer, and I'm using you as an excuse.
You would believe how often I do that to my sister. I'm like, hey!
I haven't seen you in a while.
I'm coming to visit.
Yeah.
I'm here to visit.
She's like, just to see you.
She's like, what do you want?
Actually, I just came for the beer.
Some man
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Roman accidentally Superman punches Dean, and everyone's like, oh, fuck, there's the dissolution of the Shield again. You can't have too much of a good thing for too long because they'll just end it anyways. It's done. And there's a really fucking cool spot, and I loved this. So you had Seth and Roman in the middle of the ring, and you had Braun in front of them, Drew to the right, and Dolph to the left. And behind them is Dean. And Dean's kind of almost eyeing him up like, I'm about to beat your motherfucking asses right now. And I'm crazy enough to do it right now. And damn it, Roman Reigns, why the fuck did you punch me in the face? That hurt so bad, you bastard motherfucker. The language today, man, I don't know why. For some reason, I'm just resorting to the most vile language to discuss professional wrestling. But sometimes that's where my brain goes. I don't know. I'm not sure. Great match. Ultimately, to go back to that spot, Dean goes through his brothers and leg drops Braun Strowman and then does a cool dive to the outside through the middle rope, suicide dive style, because that's okay to do. Ultimately, the Shield pick up the victory. A couple interesting false finishes here you had. All I remember is that Drew got Sweet Chin music down by Seth. Seth got Sweet Chin music by Ziggler. Ziggler turned around to get the Dirty Deeds by Ambrose. Ambrose got the pin and the win. And, of course, the Shield sticks their hands in, and it's a great moment, and it was awesome. It was great. This was a very good match. I was very happy with it. I will give it a 4.25. I do believe it was one of the few cards that was 100% perfectly primed where it needed to go on this card for how the crowd response was, because they were definitely like already on the high from the Buddy Murphy Cedric Alexander match, and they were wanting more. So you have to kind of lead them out the door, right? Up next, after that six-man tag match, we had DB, the Daniel Bryan, versus The Miz. Singles match to determine the number one contender for the SmackDown and WWE Championship. I thought this match was very interesting. It's a very short match. It only goes 2 minutes, 45 seconds. There's not a lot of crazy action, not a lot of stuff that happened, okay? It's a couple false finishes real quick, couple thoughts on the finishers real quick. Boom, Miz is going for the skull-crushing finale. It's turned into a pinning submission, or into a pinning move. It's turned into a pin, and a not really quick, but a consistent 1-2-3 from Charles Robinson gives Daniel Bryan the win to become the number one contender. And, man, the implications from this match. So now we know Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles at WWE Crown Jewel will be taking place. That match will be happening very shortly, and we're going to be talking about that soon in a few short minutes here. But it's interesting because the AJ Styles-Daniel Bryan matchup, I believe they had some matches in ROH, and they're talked about to this day. So to see them go toe-to-toe for the big prize in the WWE is going to be very interesting. And both those guys are good guys right now, though. So is it just a tale of it doesn't fucking matter if you've got two heroes? Because that's not typically WWE's MO. You've got to have a guy to cheer for, and you have to have a guy to boo. And I don't think that Daniel Bryan is the guy to boo. I also don't think AJ Styles is the guy to boo. Right now, they're on a different trend. Right now, I see one of two things happening. I see Samoa Joe out of fucking nowhere, like on Raw or on SmackDown this week, winning the title in some random rematch, okay? Or I see The Miz sneak attacking and beating the shit out of Daniel Bryan to replace him as number one contender, or asking for a rematch and maybe some different circumstances happen, and then it's like, now it's Daniel Bryan versus The Miz versus AJ for the title, versus Samoa Joe, fatal four-way out of nowhere, There's a lot of ways this could go down, but like I said, the implications from that AJ Samoa Joe match really affect what I thought about the Daniel Bryan Miz match, because The Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles matchup is great. Samoa Joe and Miz would have been great. Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan would have been great. AJ Miz would have tore the house down. It's arguably one of the best matchups. But I think that ultimately AJ DB is the best matchup. I just don't know where they go with the story, and I guess we're going to just have to be along for the ride to find out. Let's go on to the final match. 3.75 for that Miz-Daniel Bryan match. Let's not forget to give them a rating there. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, Triple H with Shawn Michaels, up against The Undertaker with Kane. No disqualification match. Match goes 27 minutes. The last match of the night. A sprinkle of Attitude Era nostalgia here. It didn't hit me in the cockles of my heart like I wanted it to. It was good. It was definitely good. There were some interesting spots. I want to mention that the match itself was okay. It was kind of the same shit they've all been doing to each other any other time there's a match. Triple H has shenanigans. Triple H tries to use the sledgehammer. Shawn Michaels has a change of heart, tries to be the good guy, fucking Sweet Chin Music somebody in the face anyways. Like, it's old hat. We've seen it. We've seen it done time and time and time again and time again. So the match itself, Triple H versus Undertaker, give it a 3 stars. Okay, it was okay. And for that to be the last match of the night is like, damn, you kind of end on a low note there, you guys. And so I'm watching, and I'm watching, and I'm watching, and Triple H goes over and extends his hand to Undertaker, and I was like, oh, wow, this is... like, they're going to really do this here. Even though they did it once before at WrestleMania 28 at the end of an era, which the word end, the word last, but they're not the end or the last, the end of an era. The fuck does that mean? Are you just saying that those two can never wrestle in Hell in a Cell again? Obviously, they're too fucking old. The last time ever? Do you mean the last time ever that they'll face off one-on-one? But now we're going to put them in 54 different kinds of tag team matches together? Like, this is my issue with this, is that you hyped it as the last time ever. You give Triple H Shawn Michaels. You give Taker Kane. It definitely has that old school DX Brothers of the Destruction kind of vibe. Think Attitude Era 2001-ish, 2000, even though I know that DX was long gone by then. But I digress. This match falls short. Triple H goes over, extends the hand. They hug it out. They all raise their hands together. And I was like, oh, this is a beautiful moment. It's like Curtain Call. It's like Curtain Call 2, you guys. Like, they're kayfabe, right? They broke kayfabe, and they're all raising each other's hands and saying, look at us. We've been at the top of the mountain for 20-some years, and this is the last time we're going to do something like that. And then, boom, God damn it, out of nowhere. Undertaker, by the way, Undertaker lost to Triple H. But again, shenanigans. Triple H hit him with a fucking sledgehammer when he had Shawn Michaels up for the tombstone. So Triple H, they all raise their hands, and Taker just grabs Triple H, flips him around, hits him with the fucking tombstone. Kane hit the meanest looking clothesline on Shawn Michaels, and I don't know if Shawn's arm was already busted open or if his mouth was cut open, but I thought I saw blood explode somehow, whether Shawn Michaels spit a little blood or whatnot. For that moment, the fact that now it's not over, it's like you've essentially really reignited the fire, and now there's a war that's going to be happening. I gave it an additional 1 star for that ending, so it was like a 4-star thing. So overall here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches. Let's see, 4. I'm doing some quick math here because I'm going to try to give you guys like an aggregate score. So we have 6.25, 10.75, 12.75, 13, 16, 16, and you'd think somebody who did math for a living, I'd be faster at this, but I'm not. So 16 is 19.25, that's 23.25, that's 2750, that's 3150, 3150, 35, 25. 35, 25 means this overall aggregate score, if we were to average everything out, this card was about middle of the pack, 3.25-ish, 3.5-ish. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't awful. There were some high spots. There were some low spots. The highs and lows of pro wrestling, I guess, is what we're going to call them today. We're going to move on here from the Super Showdown, talk about what is coming up next, which is going to be WWE Evolution, folks. And we have not a whole hell of a lot more than what we filled in last time. We've filled some things out, but we've not filled everything out. Ronda Rousey, like I said, she's defending her title against To Be Determined. TBA, or To Be Announced, has lots and lots of spots on this card because Ronda Rousey is facing TBA. TBA as champion versus TBA as opponent for the SmackDown Women's Champion. We're not sure who's going to be there. Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler, a singles match for the NXT Women's Championship. TBA champion versus TBA opponent, NXT UK Women's Championship match. Io Shirai versus Toni Storm, the Mae Young Classic Tournament Final. Alexa Bliss versus Trish Stratus, and Lita versus Mickie James. So 2 matches to still be announced, 1 opponent for Ronda Rousey, possibly some more matches to be announced. There is a rumor there will be tag team titles also possibly defended at this event. Really looking forward to WWE Evolution. I'm also looking forward to the podcast after Evolution. We're going to be bringing on Foodies Watching Movies host Veronica Evans, the lovely Veronica Evans, and she's going to watch this pay-per-view with me, and we're going to see what she thinks of it. And lots of names still not on this card. You don't see Sasha Banks. I don't see Naomi. I don't see a lot of Asuka. I don't see, what's her name? She's not like most girls. Nia Jax, thank you. Took me way the fuck longer. I don't see Ember Moon. It's I feel like I don't see Natalya or Carmella. So they've got a lot more to pack into this. I don't think they're close to done. I think we're really going to get the fast track. Monday on Raw is going to be like WWE Evolution. We're fucking on our way. And then we're there. And it's going to be, the first ever all-women's pay-per-view happening. And I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. We are going to get into, let me just quickly say, some Being the Elite news. Episode 19 just dropped. Episode 119 just dropped. My apologies. And it was kind of like the aftermath of All In. And everything kind of resetting. We had kind of a very open and honest wink and a nod right directly at the WWE that they seemingly offered Hangman Page a contract, but it was horse shit. And as they've said, the group of the Bullet Club that is current, Cody, Marty, Bucks, Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, Masa, Fat Ass Masa. Shout out to you, Fat Ass Masa. I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, bro, but maybe. Who knows? Those guys are going to do whatever they're going to do together. Their next step is together. And with that being said, the episode title for 119 was TikTok, and you kept hearing a clock throughout, and there was this, countdown that was shown that's got, 2 months and some odd hours and days, and essentially it amounts to the new year. And the new year, as a lot of people know, is when all these dudes' contracts are up. So they're teasing already that their contracts are up, what's going to happen, where they're going to go, what are they going to do. And if I'm them, be the hottest fucking thing in wrestling and keep doing it by yourselves. Sure, Vince might offer you a lot more money right now. Sure, he might offer you a lot, but he's going to water down your product. He's going to take away from all that merch money you're raking in week in and week out and day in and day out and every fucking second.